So on one hand, you've got CJ Stroud, probably most accurate. Feels like of the remaining guys, he's right there with Bryce Young. Feels like the safest. I know some people that have Stroud as their one. Richardson, we've talked about a bunch as the boomer bust type of play. And I think it's a fair assessment of him. And Levis is a little boomer bust. I'm also more likely to take a multi-year approach and say I wouldn't hate to have the top pick next year if needed, with Caleb Williams and potentially Drake May available there. So, oh man, I don't know. Stroud, I feel like you can win with Stroud on a rookie contract. I think you can win with him on a rookie contract.
How much? Stroud's, it's funny, like everyone's going to talk about Anthony Richardson and Will Levis being the most boomer bust or the most polarizing or the most like wide range of outcomes. I actually think Stroud might have an even broader range of outcomes because it's entirely down. Like he showed everything in that Georgia game, everything you want to see. And if that's the game you looked at to the exclusion of everything else, you'd be like, this guy is number one overall. Or if you value simply, we've talked before about doing it against the best opposition. That's what everyone looks for first. I'm going to go see how he played against Georgia. Like I've started tapes. That's how I started Will Levis tape. Let's go see how he did against Georgia, particularly that 2021 Georgia defense, like the best defense in college football history. Let's go see how he performed against that and then move from there. So it makes sense as an idea, but it's not necessarily accurate. And as it happens, Stroud had probably the best game of his college career against the Georgia defense in the college football playoffs. And if that's what you were focused on, you would be like, this guy's number one overall. He showed poise. He showed the ability to read quickly through progressions and get the ball where it needs to go. He understood defenses. He played well under pressure. He added on top of when the play broke down, all the things you want to see. Problem is, it didn't happen against most teams. So, and actually, some of those things that were strengths against Georgia were consistent weaknesses in his tape, generally in college. So, do you come out of that saying, well, he just proved he can do it in the NFL because he did it against the most NFL type of defense he's going to see? Or do you say, yeah, but he didn't do it against some much, much worse teams. That's way more scary. That's his problem. And to me, the fact that he didn't do it consistently against way weaker opposition is a huge red flag. And that would scare the hell out of me.
Part of what you said I really agree with, though, is that CJ Stroud might be the most polarizing, in part because you're trying to figure out, okay, how much do you trust Georgia game versus the rest and all that fun stuff. But is he the most polarizing because of its pure risk assessment here? Because if you, like, when you slap labels on these quarterbacks and you say, boom or bust, high upside. Stroud, we've seen comps to guys like Jared Goff. They're a little bit safer. They're more accurate, but they don't have the cannon for an arm and this and that, right? If Stroud is quote unquote safer than the boom or bust guys, is that really what makes him polarizing? Because you're sitting there at 4 or 7 or 9, and you're saying, do I want a guy who's just accurate, right? I mean, like from a prospect standpoint, is CJ Stroud closer to Mac Jones and Kenny Pickett, whereas the recency bias that I keep referencing every single show, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, all the guys with great tools, whether it's athleticism, arm, whatever it is, those are the guys that perhaps you're chasing in the top 10. I feel like that's why Stroud's polarizing, because the knock on him isn't just, we only saw it in one game. It's like, okay, how is he a carry the team type of guy? I think that's where people are going to land on him, and why you're going to say, do I want him at 4 or do I want the guy that could eventually carry me?
I also think, though, that we probably underestimate how wide a range of outcomes these sort of safer, quote-unquote, quarterbacks actually have. Like, Jared Goff is not a terrible comp for him. And Jared Goff has, on the positive end of his NFL career, been a top 10 quarterback in an offense that was dominant. An offense was absolutely cooking. Sean McVay's offense, at the peak of its powers, Jared Goff looked like a top 10 quarterback. He's also looked like a completely non-functional quarterback in, disastrous Jeff Fisher offense, and then the Rams offense when it fell apart. And his sort of range has been all over the shop. Like now you've got in Detroit where the numbers are really good. Goff himself isn't necessarily playing that amazingly. So like if he's something akin to Jared Goff, we think of that as middle of the road, get you on the fairway, standard, good quarterback. but it's also a guy that could be anything from legitimately part of a Super Bowl winning or a Super Bowl capable team to this doesn't function anymore. This is a train wreck. Like, we need to move on. So I don't know that I don't know that he's the safer pick from those three guys.
All right. Well, no, I mean, it makes sense. I understand what you're saying. Safe and risky or boom or bust isn't necessarily it's not necessarily the way to think about it, but I think that's maybe how the NFL will. So let's pick a quarterback. Who do we want here?
Of the three, I would take Levis, but I think I would be in the minority.
Levis would probably be my third of Stroud, Richardson, and Levis here.
Yeah, that's where I think most people would have him.
Yeah. I might go what I feel like is the safest route in Stroud. Like as a team builder, I might say, give me Stroud and I'll trust the model and figure out the rest.
Trust the model.
Got to trust the model.
Where's the model have Stroud?
Listen, I've focused mostly on non-quarterback. I need a better strategy with the quarterback model here. Because overall it's good, but it's such a binary hit or miss type of thing. Mm-hmm. I got to figure it out a little bit more. But there's nothing data-driven. I don't think anyone has anything data-driven over the last few years with in the time period we're talking about that would have properly pointed to Mahomes, Herbert, Allen, and that's going to skew everything. Dak. None of those guys were stars from a data perspective. So when you rely on data, I need more scouting data, basically, baked into the model before we get there. But my feeling is Stroud's going to be, I haven't run it yet, but Stroud's probably going to be good. Richardson and Levis, not so good. And Bryce Young, good. So my guess would be it's going to be Bryce, Stroud, Levis, Richardson from a data perspective.
Okay.
Knowing what I know about the model and what it values. So let's go Stroud.
All right.
Trust the model-ish.